So let me introduce to you the wonderful story of the Prince Bishop Ranulph Flambard. He was the Prince Bishop here between 1099 and 1128, but he had a wonderful backstory that when he was in the court of William the Conqueror and then afterwards William II, and then William II gets killed by a stray arrow in the New Forest, and his younger son of William the Conqueror, Henry I, then becomes the new King of England. Now, he doesn't really like Flambard. He thinks he's been a bit of a fraudulent character, even though he's got brought in lots of money through various means to the crown. He actually throws him in jail. Not just any old jail. This is the jail of the White Tower of London. He's the first person to be in prison there, and he's there for a year in about 1100. And a year later, he manages to come up with a cunning plan, and that is to bring in a nice big flagon of wine, and he asks his friends to put in a long rope. He gets all his jailers drunk, and then he takes out the rope, climbs out the window, and so he's the first person to escape from the Tower of London as well. He then gets on the waiting horses by his friends, and he gallops off to a waiting boat where he goes across to Normandy, and he teams up with the eldest son of William the Conqueror, and that's Robert Curthose. So really quite an amazing story. He does actually sort of appear later on the side of Curthose against Henry I, but eventually in about 1108 he decides to give up all this politicking and warring, and he comes up to Durham, and he spends the next sort of 20 odd years in doing a lot of development work in the cathedral, because if we remember, cathedral was created between 1093 and 1133, and as you can see in front of you, this is La Place. This is the palace green that he created, because when he first came up here, he said, "Will I go to work from my castle to the cathedral? I don't want to go past all this riffraff. I want to go past a nice green space." And so he does that, and he asks them, this sort of Anglo-Saxon community who were working with the masons who were creating the cathedral, he sent them all down to the new market square. Flambard continues to sort of rebuild the castle, and elsewhere in Durham he creates the first ever bridge over the River Wear, and that being the Flambard Gate Bridge, which we'll probably see later on.